Some cars are built to impress, some are built to sell fast, but a rare few are built like they were forged in a volcano. These are the machines that just refuse to die, the ones that keep running long after the paint fades and the seats sag. So, which old-school legends have truly earned the title of forever cars? Stick around, because you might be surprised which ones outlasted trends, outlived rivals, and even outlasted their own companies. Toyota Land Cruiser FJ40 and 80 series. If you wanted a car to survive the apocalypse, you'd probably pick a Land Cruiser, and not the modern, luxury-heavy versions. We're talking about the FJ40 and 80 series, the ones that became legends in deserts, jungles, and mountain trails. Born in the 1950s as a rugged military vehicle, the Land Cruiser evolved into the ultimate civilian adventure machine. The FJ40, with its boxy body and go-anywhere stance, became the favorite of explorers, aid workers, and yes, even a few outlaws in remote corners of the world. The 80 series, launched in the early 1990s, took that bulletproof DNA and added a dash of comfort without sacrificing toughness. Under the hood, straight-six engines that ran cooler than most in extreme heat, paired with transmissions designed to take years of abuse without flinching. Maintenance, basic. Failures, rare. This was a vehicle that didn't just transport you from point A to point B, it could carry you across continents without breaking a sweat. Ask owners, and you'll hear the same story. It's old, it's heavy, but it just works. Whether crawling over rocks in Australia's outback, plowing through snow in Alaska, or idling calmly in the scorching Sahara sun, these Land Cruisers proved themselves in conditions that would kill lesser cars. It's no wonder clean examples now fetch absurd prices on the used market. People know what they're buying, a piece of automotive history that still has decades of life left in it. If there's such a thing as an unkillable SUV, the early Land Cruiser wears that crown. Mercedes-Benz W23, 1976 to 1985. You could almost call the Mercedes W123 the definition of over-engineering. Released in 1976, it didn't just set a new standard for reliability, it made everything else on the road look fragile. Built during a time when Mercedes engineers were given more freedom than accountants, the W123 was designed to survive decades of hard use with minimal fuss. The diesel variants, especially the 240D and 300D, are the real stars here. These engines are slow, painfully slow by modern standards, but they'll run forever if you keep up basic maintenance. It's not uncommon to find W123 diesels still in daily service, with odometers showing 500,000 miles or more. In fact, there are stories of taxis in Africa and the Middle East racking up over 1 million miles without ever needing a full engine replacement. The body was built like a tank, the suspension could handle rough roads without complaint, and the interior materials somehow resisted decades of sun, rain, and careless passengers. Even electrical gremlins, the bane of many old cars, were minimal thanks to simple wiring and fewer gadgets to fail. Part of the W123's charm is that it feels solid in a way modern cars rarely do. Shut the door, and it closes with that satisfying thunk, the sound of quality you can't fake. Drive one, and you feel like you're piloting something made for the long haul, not just the next 5 years. Today, these cars are beloved by collectors, enthusiasts, and anyone who values a machine that's built to endure. They might not be flashy, but if your goal is to own something that will still be running when your grandkids are learning to drive, a W123 is a very safe bet. Volvo 240, 1974 to 1993. The Volvo 240 wasn't built to win beauty contests, it was built to win the long game. With its iconic brick-shaped body and an engineering philosophy that prioritized durability over flash, the 240 quickly became a favorite of families, safety-conscious drivers, and anyone who wanted a car that could rack up miles without turning into a money pit. Underneath that squared-off exterior sat one of the most dependable four-cylinder engines ever made, the B21, and later B230. These power plants were simple, overbuilt, and happy to run well past 300,000 miles with basic care. Many owners didn't even consider the engine broken in until they hit 200,000. The drivetrain paired with a robust manual or automatic transmission that could shrug off decades of use. And it wasn't just about the mechanics. The Volvo 240's body panels resisted rust better than most cars of its time, and the suspension handled rough roads without falling apart. Inside, the interior materials were chosen for their ability to survive kids, pets, and years of sun exposure, not for trendy looks. This reliability made the 240 a darling among taxi operators in Europe and a cult classic in the US. Even today, it's not hard to spot one still running strong in small towns or being lovingly restored by enthusiasts. The 240 is proof that style fades, but substance lasts. While it may look like it was drawn with a ruler, its ability to outlast flashier rivals has cemented its place as one of the longest-living cars ever made. Honda Accord late 80s and early 90s. In the late 80s and early 90s, Honda hit a sweet spot with the Accord, a perfect blend of simplicity, efficiency, and unshakable reliability. These were the cars that turned countless buyers into lifelong Honda fans. Under the hood, the 2.2-liter four-cylinder and optional V6 engines were practically bulletproof. They didn't need complicated technology to deliver consistent performance. They just needed regular oil changes and the occasional tune-up. Owners often brag about racking up 300,000 miles or more without major repairs. The Accord's design was straightforward and logical, making it easy and inexpensive to maintain. Honda engineers avoided unnecessary complexity, which meant fewer things to go wrong. Even the interiors were built to last, with fabrics and plastics that didn't crumble after a few years in the sun. These Accords also drove better than most of their competition. Light steering, balanced handling, and comfortable seats made them a joy for long commutes and cross-country road trips alike. And because they weren't loaded with fragile electronics, they kept their composure well into old age. Today, well-maintained examples still change hands quickly because people know what they're getting. A dependable sedan that can keep going for decades. In a world of planned obsolescence, the late 80s and early 90s Accord stands as a reminder that building something right the first time pays off. Toyota Corolla E90 E100 series. If reliability were a sport, the Toyota Corolla would be in the Hall of Fame. The E90 and E100 series, produced from the late 1980s through the mid-1990s, represent the Corolla at its most durable. This was before Toyota loaded it up with too many electronics, and when engines were simple, efficient, and designed for the long haul. These Corollas came with small but mighty four-cylinder engines, the 4AFE and 7AFE, that could easily pass 300,000 miles if treated halfway decently. The transmissions, both manual and automatic, were similarly overbuilt, rarely giving owners trouble even after decades on the road. Rust protection was decent, the suspension was basic but sturdy, and replacement parts were, and still are, dirt cheap and widely available. You could take one of these cars to almost any mechanic in the world, and they'd know how to fix it. The Corolla's secret weapon wasn't just its mechanical strength, it was its predictability. These cars didn't throw surprise repair bills at you. They started every morning, got you where you needed to go, and asked for little in return. Even now, you'll see these old Corollas faithfully serving as daily drivers, delivery cars, or first rides for new drivers. They're proof that sometimes boring is exactly what you want, because boring gets you home every single time. Ford Crown Victoria, 1992 to 2011. If you've ever taken a taxi in New York or watched a police chase on TV in the 2000s, you've probably seen a Ford Crown Victoria at work. This full-size sedan became a legend not because it was flashy or fast, but because it was practically unbreakable. The magic came from the 4.6-liter modular V8 under the hood. It wasn't a performance monster, but it was smooth, dependable, and capable of piling on hundreds of thousands of miles with only basic maintenance. Mated to a 4-speed automatic that was as tough as they come, the Crown Vic could spend its life idling for hours, chasing down suspects, or racking up 500-mile days as a cab, and still keep going. Its body-on-frame construction, a rarity for sedans by the 90s, meant it could take hits and be easily repaired. This design made it popular with fleets, since it could survive the kind of abuse that would destroy unibody cars. And because Ford made them in massive numbers, parts were cheap and easy to find, keeping repair costs low. Even after production ended in 2011, the Crown Vic didn't disappear. Retired police cars and taxis were sold to the public, where they became beloved by budget-conscious drivers who wanted something reliable, comfortable, and built to last. It's not glamorous, but in the world of cars that refuse to die, the Crown Victoria is a workhorse in a suit, one that can quietly outlast most modern sedans without breaking a sweat. Chevrolet Suburban 1970s to 1990s models. The Chevrolet Suburban is the automotive equivalent of a loyal farmhand who never calls in sick. First hitting the market in the 1930s, by the 1970s through the 90s, it had cemented its place as the ultimate big family hauler and workhorse in one. Under its massive hood, you'd typically find a small block or big block V8, engines known for their simplicity and ability to soak up abuse. These Suburbans could tow heavy trailers, haul full loads of passengers and cargo, and still keep running year after year. Many owners report odometer readings well past 300,000 miles, with some pushing beyond 500,000. Its truck-based frame was the secret weapon, sturdy enough for commercial use, but versatile enough for long road trips. This durability, combined with roomy interiors, made it a favorite for big families, rural residents, and government fleets. Yes, it drinks gas like it's going out of style, and it's not going to win any parking space efficiency awards. But if your priority is a vehicle that will keep showing up no matter the season, the old-school Suburban is hard to beat. Today, you still see these square-bodied giants rumbling down highways, often with their original engines still going strong. They're a reminder that sometimes bigger really does mean tougher. Jeep Cherokee XJ 1984 to 2001. The Jeep Cherokee XJ was one of the first vehicles to prove that an SUV could be both practical and nearly indestructible. Introduced in 1984, it quickly gained a following for its compact size, off-road ability, and legendary reliability. At the heart of the XJ's durability was the 4.0-liter inline-six engine, a power plant so tough it became the stuff of Jeep folklore. This engine could handle extreme heat, cold, and abuse with little more than regular oil changes. It wasn't the most fuel-efficient thing on the road, but owners didn't care. It just kept running. The XJ's unibody construction was unusual for an SUV at the time, but Jeep reinforced it enough to make it strong and long-lasting. Off-road, it could tackle trails that left other vehicles stranded, yet it was still comfortable enough for daily driving. Part of the XJ's charm was its simplicity. Fewer electronic systems meant fewer things to fail, and parts availability remains excellent to this day. Many XJs have surpassed the 300,000-mile mark without major work, and they're still sought after by enthusiasts who want a rugged, easy-to-maintain SUV. In the world of old vehicles, the Cherokee XJ has earned its place as a legend, one that can handle city streets, muddy trails, and everything in between without breaking a sweat. Toyota Hilux, 1970s to 1990s. If there's one vehicle that has earned a global reputation for being unkillable, it's the Toyota Hilux. Built for markets all over the world, the Hilux wasn't just a pickup, it was a survival tool. Farmers, construction crews, aid workers, and even explorers in some of the most remote regions trusted it because it simply didn't quit. The Hilux of the 1970s through the 1990s was all about mechanical simplicity. 4-cylinder petrol and diesel engines that could take years of hard use, manual gearboxes with bulletproof reliability, and a chassis that could carry heavy loads without flinching. In rural Africa, the Australian outback, and the Middle East, these trucks became legends for their ability to handle blistering heat, rough roads, and poor quality fuel. Television's most famous torture test came from a British car show where a Hilux was submerged in seawater, dropped from a height, set on fire, and still started up after minimal repairs. That wasn't a gimmick, it was a real demonstration of just how absurdly tough these trucks are. Even decades later, many old Hilux models are still working daily, hauling goods, towing equipment, and navigating rough terrain without complaint. They might be slow, noisy, and Spartan inside, but when the choice is between comfort and survival, the Hilux will always be the smart bet. BMW E30 1980 to 1994. When people talk about classic BMWs, the E30 often comes up first, and for good reason. This was the car that cemented BMW's reputation for building small, agile, and incredibly well-made sedans and coupes. And while many remember it for its driving feel, its longevity is equally impressive. The E30's engines, especially the straight sixes like the M20, were built to take a beating. With regular oil changes and proper maintenance, it's not unusual for them to pass 300,000 miles without major issues. The simpler four-cylinder variants, like the M10 and M40, were even more bulletproof. Its mechanical layout was straightforward, making it easier to work on than many modern BMWs. The body structure was solid, resisting rust better than most cars of its era. Suspension components were strong and relatively inexpensive to replace, helping owners keep these cars on the road without breaking the bank. And while enthusiasts often modify E30s for racing or drifting, stock examples have proven that they can serve as dependable daily drivers for decades. The combination of German engineering, simple electronics, and overbuilt components has made the E30 one of the few classic European cars you can actually live with every day. For drivers who appreciate both driving pleasure and long-term dependability, the E30 is a rare gem, a car that delivers thrills now and reliability far into the future. Honda Civic 1980s to 1990s. The Honda Civic didn't just help define the compact car market, it redefined what people expected from a small, affordable vehicle. In the 1980s and 1990s, the Civic became famous for its ability to rack up hundreds of thousands of miles while costing almost nothing to maintain. The secret was Honda's approach to engineering. Keep it simple, keep it light, and build it well. Engines like the D-Series 4-cylinder were efficient, easy to work on, and practically indestructible. They didn't need high-tech systems to last, just regular oil changes and basic care. Transmissions were equally solid, whether you chose the crisp shifting manual or the durable automatic. The lightweight design meant less strain on components, so brakes, tires, and suspension parts lasted longer than on heavier cars. And because Honda sold millions of Civics worldwide, replacement parts were cheap and available everywhere. Owners loved that these cars just worked. They started in all weather, sipped fuel, and asked for little in return. Many 1990s Civics are still daily drivers today, especially in communities where dependable, low-cost transportation is a must. In a world where some modern cars seem designed to age quickly, the old Honda Civic stands out as proof that affordable doesn't have to mean disposable. It's the kind of car that wins loyalty not with luxury, but with trust. Nissan Patrol E60 W61. If the Toyota Land Cruiser is the king of durability, the Nissan Patrol is its battle-hardened rival. The Y60 and Y61 generations, built from the late 1980s through the 2000s, are the ones that turned the Patrol into a global legend. In the Middle East, Australia, and parts of Africa, they're as common as street signs, and just as dependable. These Patrols were engineered for extremes. Under the hood, you'd often find the TD42 diesel, a slow but unstoppable inline-six known for running 500,000 miles with only basic upkeep. Petrol options like the TB42 were just as reliable. If a bit thirstier, both were paired with manual or automatic transmissions that could take years of abuse without flinching. Off-road, the Patrol was a monster. Solid axles, tough suspension, and a strong ladder frame meant it could climb over obstacles that would stop lesser SUVs dead in their tracks. It was built to handle blistering desert heat, torrential monsoon rains, and rocky mountain trails without complaining. Even now, decades-old Patrols are still in active service as expedition vehicles, tour operators, and work trucks in some of the harshest places on Earth. They don't just survive in extreme environments, they thrive there. And for many owners, they're not just a mode of transport, they're a trusted companion. Saab 900 Classic, 1978 to 1993. The classic Saab 900 may look quirky, but underneath its unique styling beats the heart of a workhorse. Built during Saab's golden era, the 900 was a car designed by engineers for people who actually drove, and drove a lot. Its engines, especially the naturally aspirated and low-pressure turbocharged 4 cylinders, were robust and long-lived. Saab's overbuilt components meant that a well-maintained 900 could easily see 300,000 miles without major surgery. The gearbox, mounted directly under the engine in a unique layout, was tough and designed to handle high mileage without protest. Part of what made the 900 so durable was Saab's philosophy of building for harsh Scandinavian conditions. Cold starts in freezing winters? No problem. Long stretches of highway driving at speed? It could do that all day. The interiors were also designed for longevity, with high-quality materials that didn't crumble after a few years. Yes, some parts can be harder to find now, but owners will tell you it's worth the effort. A classic Saab 900 isn't just a reliable old car, it's a character-rich machine that proves durability can come with personality. Chevy CK Pickup, 1970s to 1990s. The Chevy CK Pickup is the kind of truck that earns respect the old-fashioned way, by working hard for decades without complaint. Built from the 1960s through the late 1990s, these trucks were everywhere, on farms, construction sites, and highways, because they were affordable, simple, and tough as nails. V8 engines like the small block 350 became legends for their ability to run forever with minimal care. Straight 6 options were even simpler and just as dependable. These engines were mated to sturdy manual or automatic transmissions that could take heavy towing, hauling, and daily driving in stride. The CK's body-on-frame design meant it could be repaired and rebuilt easily, which is why so many are still on the road today. Rust could be an issue in harsh climates, but mechanically, these trucks just didn't quit. Even abused work trucks with faded paint and dented beds often still have perfectly healthy drivetrains. They're not the most comfortable rides by modern standards, but if you wanted a truck that could serve you faithfully for decades, the CK series was a safe bet, and still is for those lucky enough to find a clean one. Toyota Camry, 1990s models. In the 1990s, Toyota's Camry reached peak reliability. Built before cost-cutting and overly complex electronics crept in, these sedans were the ultimate buy-it-and-forget-it cars. The 2.2-liter 4-cylinder and optional 3.0-liter V6 engines were both marvels of engineering simplicity. They ran smoothly, used fuel efficiently, and could log 300,000 miles or more without needing anything beyond routine maintenance. Transmissions were equally dependable, shifting cleanly even after decades of service. The Camry's interior was built with durable materials that aged gracefully, and its suspension soaked up miles without turning the car into a rattletrap. Toyota's focus on quality control at the time meant that assembly tolerances were tight and mechanical failures were rare. What made the 1990s Camry special wasn't that it was exciting. It wasn't. It was that it removed stress from the ownership experience entirely. You turned the key, it started, you drove it, it got you home. No drama, no big repair bills, just quiet, consistent service year after year. It might not get car enthusiasts' hearts racing, but for millions of owners, the 90s Camry was proof that the most valuable feature a car can have is trust. Some cars are bought for style, others for speed, but these 15, they were built for the long game. Decades later, many are still working hard, proving that durability never goes out of style. Which one would you trust to carry you through the next 300,000 miles? Drop your pick in the comments, hit subscribe for more, and remember, trends fade, but a truly great car lasts forever.